Smaato is a company we started to found about 5 years ago, and we are headquartered in Silicon Valley, Redwood Shores. And what we are doing is that we looked at the mobile space, and in the beginning we actually started to develop applications, and then quickly looked at the monetization of apps, and that was, mind you, 5 years ago. And we thought that selling apps is a tedious business, especially in those times when it was pre-Apple App Store. And coming from an internet background and online agency, we thought there has to be an advertising model. So we quickly changed the business model, and now we are the largest aggregator of ad networks. So we work with 34 ad networks around the world, and basically optimize the best fill rate or pricing for a publisher. So at Smaato we are sitting in the middle between ad networks and mobile publishers or mobile developers of either apps or mobile websites, and we help the publishers get more money and revenue out of the ad networks on a worldwide basis.
It feels that there's more than one company doing this. How did you, what pushed you in the direction of going there in the initial days or when you started this up?
Well, there's a lot of companies in the mobile space, and there are quite a, let's say, small amount of ad networks which are basically trying to sell publishers' inventory to agencies in a basically indirect way. If you compare, there's about 50 pure mobile ad networks, if you will, and or mobile agencies who cater to that audience. But in the online world, there's about 300 or about 400 ad networks in the US alone. So there's a lot of vertical ones or better technology or different kind of services. So in mobile, it's still pretty small. So 10% of the companies, which relates almost to 10% or a couple of percent of the mobile budget compared to the online budget. What we saw is that an ad network in the beginning, if you have only one connection to one ad network, then you're missing on a lot of the money. Actually, you leave it on the table. Our sweet spot is if a publisher is worldwide and you are maybe based in the UK, and all of a sudden the service is very cool for people on their iPhone or Android or any kind of mobile web service, as you will, then you will see that all of a sudden you have an audience clicking from the Philippines, from India, from South Africa, from the US. And so it's not only developed countries in the Western world, but predominantly also more and more emerging markets, where the phone is actually their access to the internet, and maybe their first time that they can get some information over the air for their personal use. And so it's obviously very exciting, almost as exciting as we in the Western world maybe embraced DSL lines when they came out to enhance our internet experience. Yeah. And so there's something now on my phone in these countries, so they're going after it. And this is our positioning is that advertising is always local. So you want to have your local language and your coupon, which maybe works in the very local vicinity, but also something which very relevant. And so what we do is try to find the local partners which then feed into the advertising stream.
So in this case, you're helping advertisers who wouldn't normally be in mobile, or ad networks who wouldn't normally be in mobile, get in there and then tailoring all that content out so that they can be sure that the money that people are paying them is going to the right users.
Yes, we work with mostly either mobile ad networks, that's our main focus, but we also start working with online ad networks who are getting into the game. So
you're now helping everyone get into the space. Is there anyone else who does the sort of thing you do?
There's 2 or 3 other companies who do a similar thing, what we do. One just got bought up by Opera, which is a mobile browser. But we are the largest of these optimizers, mediation layers, if you will, on a worldwide basis, and we have the largest amount of ad network partners, which is crucial so that you have a lot of local partners in order to get the revenue or the highest ARPU, average revenue per user in advertising, to the publisher.
And what's your business model? How do you make money off the advertisers? Are you taking a percentage of everything that comes through?
Well, I mean, we work with the largest ad networks like AdMob, bought by Google, or Quadro Wireless, bought by Apple, Millennium Media, Third Screen, part of AOL, and or big players in the Asian market. And we actually take a percentage of the revenue stream which the publisher gets. So it's around 10% of what the publisher receives.
And in terms of your clients that you work with, what's the smallest client that you work with, and what's the largest client that you work with? I mean, if I set up, can I have Smaato on my blog, or does there have to be a certain size that it has?
Well, we have different size of customer segments, and we obviously address them differently or work with them in a different kind of way. We have about 2,000 publishers now signed up, or more than 2,000 publishers signed up with our service, and the majority comes through the website. So there's an online sign-off process, that allows everybody with even the smallest amounts of page impressions, if you will, to sign up and get this advertising stream. Obviously our team focuses more on large account businesses with either high volume or some premium content which is more interesting, and you could try to get more relevant data and work with advertisers on the through the ad networks in order to work with some more targeted information. So for social media networks, you have information about gender and age and location. Especially the location part already has a very big CPM, right? So the cost per thousand, if you will, price is much higher if you add the ad request with enriched data about that particular user or his device, and that is what we are focusing on. And there's obviously a more large account approach in the sales process.
And so that's where you're going. So where are you now, and where are you hoping to get to?
Well, right now, over the last couple of years, 5 years, we have established, first of all, a very big user base, customer base, if you will, on the publisher side, and we have established our relationships with the ad networks. We're definitely trying to grow more on the overall. We have about 3 billion ad requests in our network every month.
3 billion a month.
3 billion every month. And so obviously we want to increase that dramatically, and I think over the next 2 years, mobile will just really be a medium which everybody is using, every brand, every content company, as well as every kind of service throughout the world. So we see I think, massive explosion, and we want to grow with that market, and then see if we can add more quality to the ad request, so that obviously the relevancy to the user on the BlackBerry or on the Nokia Symbian phone is what matters in the end, so that people click on an ad, and that makes then advertisers happy.
It's something that everyone always talks about, the quality of the ad and the context of the ad. What are the challenges that you have when you're doing that? Because I hear all the time people are always going, we need more, more context, more, whether it's a guy or a girl,
right,
or age, or any demographics, or any information. Yeah. What's stopping you getting that information now, and what are you needing to do?
Well, first of all, we have to obviously be very clear that the information is always anonymous. So we only get the request and say, here's somebody on a BlackBerry, it is a woman, and she is in London, and she might be between 13 and 30 years old.
And who gives you that information? Is that the operator, or?
That is depends on, or it comes from the publisher. So our technology allows, enrich please the request and give us any kind of keywords you have. Some publishers do that, and some publishers don't, because they don't have registered data. So if we have that data, we can present it with a request to an ad network and say, oh, it's a female user or customer on the phone, why don't you give us more targeted advertising to this?
So someone who would know would be someone who has an application where that user's had to sign in,
yes,
maybe has a profile like Facebook, versus someone who wouldn't, like a Twitter search or...
Yeah, exactly. So, and using that profile, we can see if we can basically, get something which is more targeted towards guys, from football memorabilia, if you will, or something which is more targeted towards female audiences. But I think one of the biggest challenges right now is that most of the data, even if you have only location or gender, is not necessarily used by the advertisers, because most of the targeting right now is only by basically country, which means language indirectly, and the device. So there's an assumption that maybe somebody on a BlackBerry is probably a business user, and it's probably somebody maybe in the 30+ age, and it's most likely a male. So let's target something towards, let's say, Audi cars, towards this audience. But especially here in the UK, some of the handsets by BlackBerry are used very much by the younger people. So there is something which, let's say, the implicit data might not cover. So we try to enrich that. And I think one of the, since the budgets, the media budgets are pretty small in some, let's say, if they are compared to TV. Right? Mobile budgets are already pretty big. They're six-figure numbers, can be 100,000, 500,000 a month for some brands, which is very big numbers already. But if you look at the media planner, which might be a very young person, he might be challenged and say, well, we just put $5 million in with this TV station, and here's 50,000 for mobile, and then he would just say, well, do I really go out and target specifically a target group, or do I just put 50,000 together with the mobile program of that TV station and don't even think about it? And what we are trying to do is, together with our ad network partners, and see if we can kind of educate the market more and see that we can have more relevancy through better targeting, even for the, let's say, non-branded sites.
Sure. And in terms of your company, where is it going? What's your plan? I'm guessing you're funded.
Yeah, we are VC backed. We closed around the beginning of the year. Second one, and right now, as you know, the headquarters is in Silicon Valley, and we have a European office in Hamburg. We have an office in Singapore, and we are basically strengthening our international reach, because that is really where we stand out, that we can cover 215 countries and more. And I think if we see the growth of mobile in the Western world, and where we have smartphones and iPhone apps and Android, that's a very interesting market, and we play there in the premium field. But actually, the biggest region for us is Asia Pacific. So number one country is USA, and the next 2 or 3 is India, and the Pacific region. UK is pretty big after that. But now, interestingly, in the context of football, South Africa is one of the best performing countries in order to, click-through rates for advertising.
Interesting, I think it came through that it was not only click-through rates, but also engagement after, so less bouncing.
Yes. So that is they're sticky. That was like the old word from online, right? And also we saw that, for example, Symbian phones in our latest metrics are, as an operating system in general, performing much better than the second one was iPhone and then Windows Mobile, but for example compared to featured phones. So we see that the growth is in Asian regions as well as in Europe. Obviously here is a big growth factor, but also we are playing on both the mobile web, including Symbian phones, as well as iPhone and let's say Android and RIM, which is more the targeted smartphones on a higher end.
And is there anything that people are not paying attention to that they should do in the market in whole? What are people missing? Because there's always I always find there are areas that people don't pick up that they're
Right. Well, I think there's let's say maybe 2 answers. One is I think that we are very much supporting and active in the MMA, the Mobile Marketing Association, in the US, but also in European chapters. And I think there we're doing a lot of work about what are the formats of the banner, which is kind of the lowest common denominator, so that some agencies say, okay, this is easy for you, mobile. You can do a couple of banner ads and off you go. And here's the standard, and you can read it here, and it's actually adopted throughout the world. That is a very important step. But what comes next is what is the post-click experience. So you click on a banner, and then is the next page really geared towards your phone or your handset, in a way that the iPhone app page, or the landing page, if you will, on mobile, does not look like something which is more geared towards lower-end phones like featured phones. So I think the whole landing page area, or the mobile experience of brands or of services or of publishers, I think is something we have to work on in general, so that especially if you have one banner which goes into something which happens maybe with SMS ringtones, so you come up to a subscription and you might not even notice it. So there's a lot of little things out there which we have to let's say get out of the system, so that people really are looking forward to, obviously have some service in the ad and not something which is intruding in their face, because obviously we're talking a very small screen. So this is kind of science to get this done, and we are just at the beginning as an overall industry to see how this can evolve. And secondly, I think that we have to go actually beyond the banner. We have to challenge what is happening after the banner. This is something which is a small version of online, just to get us started. It's the same like TV was filming theater play and didn't move the camera off the tripod, and now we have 3D avatar kind of things, let's say very special effects, and this is a new kind of medium in cinema, and this is something which we have to invent in mobile as well. And I think now with a little bit more budgets and some of the, let's say, really cool agencies like AKQA, We Love Mobile, Hyper Factory in the US, IQ Mobile Germany, One2Snap. So there's a couple of very good agencies which have great accounts and which there's more and more traction in the market. I think then we can go also and experience more what comes after the banner, and is there maybe something we can do with audio, with video. There's much more, augmented reality. I think this is going to be exciting. It's just starting.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think the augmented reality stuff, from what I've heard today, is really good. So.
That's really exciting. And I think, let's say on a personal note, I think that mobile is, changing everybody's life. There's so much innovation in there, and I think entrepreneurs who are passionate about mobile are just really getting into it and are getting rewarded. For some of them have been maybe in mobile for the last 5 or 6 years, and now finally there's paid attention in the whole mobile space, because now Google and Apple not only introduce very cool phones, but they also invest in companies, and there's merger and acquisitions happening. So I think that all brings an attention at the right moment. Now the technology is here, and a couple of really cool concepts, like augmented reality, or just also simple apps which do simple things but very, very good, or branded applications from brands which are maybe like the Barclays card water slide, which are tied into a campaign, which then are extending this campaign over into a more customer relationship experience. And I think this is where mobile is heading, and I think that's what I'm excited about, and we are at Smaato, of course.